Yo ho hoi, Super Sentai fans, and welcome back to Toku Topics. I really called this one, huh? So, a couple of days ago I was sitting here editing my unboxing for the Memorial Edition Geardalinger, which, if you haven't checked that out, this toy is absolutely gorgeous, and the box is still really ginormous, and I haven't actually done the whole review of this thing yet because there's just so many things to cover with it. And literally in that video, I'm like, oh, you know, I skipped the Memorial Edition Geardalinger, which was announced a couple of months ago, and I think it comes out this upcoming March. I skipped that, even though I really do like Stacy, but I like his original premium toy pretty much just enough, and these Memorial Edition Geardalinger, Geardalinger, and Zenkaiger stuff are very expensive. But I did say that I am a huge fan of Zox, of TwoKaiser, Flint, the whole Gold Tweaker family, which is true. And I knew this was probably going to happen someday, but they literally announced it while I was doing the unboxing. The Memorial Edition Geardalinger is going to be a thing. So it is so expensive. It is really expensive. But there's some pretty cool things happening with it nonetheless here. So today I just want to kind of go over the announcement of the Geardalinger, what you're going to get with it, what it can do, how kind of they've improved it over the original one. And am I buying it? Yes, but I'm still trying to figure out exactly what I'm going to do. I think I know what I'm going to do, but wasn't ready for this one, Bandai. So the Memorial Edition Geardalinger is going to be pretty much exactly what you would expect it to be, going off of the Geardalinger and the Tokullectibles. Both of those ended up taking the original deluxe toy that came out in 2021 for them and basically blew it up a little bit to about 130% of its original size. So that's exactly what they've done here with the Geardalinger. But for here, I feel like it makes it pretty darn close to 1-to-1 scale here. So basically, whenever I was thinking of a Geardalinger Memorial Edition item, there was kind of like three main things that I would say would be like the top checkpoints for me to be like, yes, this is the perfect version of this toy that I would like it to be. And it seems that this is going to hit two of those three checkpoints, and I'll get into those as I move into the details of the item. But it does look really impressive, and you can kind of just tell how big they've blown it up by how kind of tiny the Twokaiser gear looks inside of the little door, which is relatively show accurate. That's kind of how these all were, instead of actually being a perfect size to just fit a gear in and like nothing else, which is what the original deluxe toys for all the Zenkaiger changers were like. We actually have gotten the Memorial Editions to kind of upgrade the molds to make it a little bit more show accurate, where there's supposed to be more space around the gears, which I think is greatly appreciated. And speaking of show accuracy, they've removed like little screw holes, they removed like hollow pieces and stuff, and just have overall made the toy look a lot more cleaner and a lot more of a prop looking thing than a toy looking thing, even though it's definitely still a very much toy looking thing here. So I'm conflicted about this for a couple of reasons. So first of all, its price. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump into that, which usually I kind of save the price for the end of the videos here, but this is really, really expensive. And I think only kind of worth it if you are a big fan like I am of Zox or Flint or TwoKaiser or Zenkaiger stuff in general, I suppose. But I believe, if I remember correctly, this was a 19,400 yen on Premium Bandai, which I will be putting it up on screen if I got that wrong. So that's about $150-ish, give or take. And Tokullectibles currently has this for $255, which, if you haven't noticed, I'm wearing a Tokullectibles t-shirt. Just cause I figured, you know, I was going to be talking about them here in the video. They're not sponsoring it or anything like that, but they did send me a t-shirt back in Christmas time, or back in December, so I figured, why not be the perfect video to kind of be wearing that than this one? But that's very, very pricey. That's extremely pricey. So, for comparison, the Memorial Edition Geardalinger, which I just got, was like, I think, $195, and I think the Tokullectibles, that was $180 on Tokullectibles. So this is a pretty sizable jump up there. So I don't know of like a lot of other places that you could get this. Now, of course, with the prices from Tokullectibles, that always factors in not only the Premium Bandai price of its original item, or the original price there, it also factors in shipping, because it's always free shipping on full payment orders, and it also factors in just like general fees for like doing the whole process of ordering from Premium Bandai and making it available to fans across the country, or I guess across the world. So yes, it's pricey, I can't argue that, but Tokullectibles has always had amazing service. I love this store so much, so this will be the place that I get it. However, to that point, What is really nice about this is that we're using Tokullectibles. You can use the Shopify thing that will let you pay it in like installments. So you can do the typical kind of pay in 4 where there's no interest and stuff like that. But you can even do a pay in 12 plan, which is insane, but it makes the grand total of this a little bit more expensive because there is interest on the 12-month plan. But it does make it like $23 a month for the next year, which is how I'm going to do this, because it's basically like the price of a Lightning Collection figure once a month for the next year to get the gear of the Memorial Edition Geardalinger, which, okay, so the only reason why I'm going to do that payment plan and not a pay in 4 or just full on pay for it right now is because of that guy right there, that teaser for the Kinoja Ranger Key. I am terrified for what that set is going to be, and I am not ready to drop the money on that and this, but I really, really want both pieces of my collection here. But now that we've gotten the price out of the way, and of course there will be links to it in the description below, let's talk about what do you get with this and what have they added to this. So one thing that was always kind of one of the checklist things that I was talking about was the tambourine or the motion sensor or whatever you want to talk about. So of course the classic thing that Zox is kind of known for with using the Geardalinger is his dancing, how he did it for the original Twokaiser, how he did it for Super Twokaiser, and whenever he hits the Geardalinger it goes, hey, hey, you know, that was a terrible rendition of it, but I don't have my Geardalinger here right now. It's back at home, unfortunately. But for whatever reason, even though I feel like it would have just been the better decision to just have that be a button on the back of the wheel to where you hit it and it says, hey, they just didn't do that. There was like a really kind of finicky kind of motion sensor or gyroscope thing inside to where if you tilted it like a certain way, it was supposed to acknowledge the fact that you were like moving around with it and then it would do the hey, which sometimes made it very difficult to try to time it if you were trying to replicate the dance. Now, they have said here, and I've kind of translated this the best that I can, it does seem like I think they've put a button there, or if not a button, at least some sort of motion sensor to where you actually can just hit it, and it will say the sounds. I think. I believe that they have removed the gyroscope thing to talk about specifically that area of the toy, and they mentioned deluxe in the text and everything, so I think that that was them pointing out specifically that they have improved that from the original toy, which, like I said, is one of the main checklist things that I would really want them to see here. Now, before I get to the third checklist thing, which I am so freaking excited about for this thing, the sword mode. So it does look like this has the hinge for this to become the sword mode, for whenever he's in the TwoKai Shinken form. But then again, that's kind of just the design of the Geardalinger that it kind of has the hinge there. What's really weird is that there are no pictures at all on Premium Bandai, and nothing in the product description that indicates that you can actually turn this into the sword mode, which is strange. So the original Geardalinger, you could just flip up the little panel there, and it could become the sword for TwoKai Flint. And one thing I always thought would have been kind of cool is that if they, because obviously it's one of those classic Toku logic things to where the blade folds up and it magically grows in size to become like a full-length sword. And I thought maybe they could do something to where you could move the panel up and maybe detach it and plug in like a bigger sword piece. And that's kind of how they would justify like a more extreme price point for this item. But they're not doing that, and it, like I said, doesn't seem to imply anything that you actually can even move that panel up anymore. So I don't think sword mode is in here, which is quite unfortunate. That's one thing to where I think that that could have been one of the best improvements a Memorial Edition version of this toy could have had, and they just didn't have it for some reason. So of course, being classic Memorial Edition toys, there are going to be a ton of phrases in here from Zox and Flint. It looks like there's kind of a separate mode for both of them to have dialogue, kind of depending on how you want to switch it there. Of course, you're also going to get some background music, some classic tracks from the show. Very, very excited for all this stuff because these are some of my all-time favorite Sentai characters. Even though Flint and Zox are only 2-year-old characters, they have literally become some of my favorite tokusatsu characters ever. I love the Goldspeaker family a ton. I love their connections to Zenkaiger. I think what they did with that was so much fun. It was just such a cool idea for them to do for the 45th anniversary, and I am all here for this. What gears does this thing have? Well, it comes with exactly the gears that you would expect it to come with, plus one more that I'm very, 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 very happy and excited about quite a bit. So the first three are not really anything too exciting. Like I said, they're exactly what you would expect. They are die-cast metal versions of the Twokaiser gear, the TwoKai Flint gear, and the TwoKai Ricky gear, so like I said, of course they would be. However, there is a fourth gear in this set that is going to be exclusive to the Memorial Edition Geardalinger, and that is the TwoKai Flint gear. Yes, Bandai, yes! So I love whenever they release stage show items. I think stage show stuff for Rider, but especially for Sentai, go very, very much unnoticed from figure lines, from toy lines. They've been improving, though. In recent years, we've actually started to get Soto candy toy figures for, like, Kamen Rider stage show stuff, and we've gotten the gimmick items from stage show things a little bit more frequently now, but Sentai, not really at all. There are Sentai exclusive Ranger designs from stage shows that we've just gotten nothing of ever. There's typically not really been many stage show exclusive gimmick items, so this kind of would have been interesting, but basically a year ago at a G Rosso stage show, which is kind of a different stage show than kind of the more typical one, there was a TwoKai Flint suit that was basically a kind of silver-ish repaint of Twokaiser with kind of Flint's kind of jacket engineered into it and everything, and there was a gear that was used to activate that form or activate that Ranger form on the stage. They never really showed a picture of that gear, but it did make the special sound in the Geardalinger, which I assume this one would probably do. But not only does this toy acknowledge that, that also means that by including this gear, it is our first time we've ever gotten to see a look at this gear. It's an all-silver Sentai gear, it has kind of a pink Twokaiser look on it and everything, and that's just so freaking cool. So much that they actually are acknowledging a stage show thing in this toy. I think TwoKai Flint was a pretty popular thing. Whenever we saw it last year, people were sharing that around constantly. It seemed like in Flint, I think, has always been a kind of fan favorite character. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if that's kind of partially one of the things that led to her becoming the Twokaiser, or the female version of it in the TTFC special with Zenkaiger. So, you know, she has gonna transform in that regard, which makes the Squeaker unit toy and stuff a lot of fun as well, because now you're going to have the Memorial Edition Geardalinger, sorry, that's going to have all these sounds from them, and then you have the Squeaker unit with the Gokai Cellular that can do it and everything too, so plenty of love for the Gold Squeaker family, and I'm all here for it. But I really wasn't expecting TwoKai Flint. That's the third thing that I would have checked this off to be perfect for me. Tambourine functionality improved, a bigger sword, and TwoKai Flint were the three big things that I really wanted. And we got two of the three of them, and the sword mode is really not that big of a deal. He didn't use that too often anyway, just for the TwoKai Shinken form, and the Super Twokaiser form used it, I guess, a pretty decent amount as well, but I don't think it's the end of the world that we don't get it here, but TwoKai Flint is just honestly so unexpected that they actually did it, and this is great. So the Memorial Edition Geardalinger is going to be released in July of 2023 here, so this should seemingly end the Zenkaiger Memorial Edition item lineup. However, I would not be surprised at this point if we get a Memorial Edition of the Zenkaiger gear, because that is the one gear that cannot fit in the Memorial Edition Geardalinger, because of the fact that they included that bigger gap for a gear to fit in, it can no longer lock into that compartment. So you can't use it with the Geardalinger, you're not going to be able to use it with the Geardalinger, and now that we have both toys that would use a Zenkaiger gear, basically I would not be surprised if we got a Memorial Edition Zenkaiger gear. Would I pick that up? I don't know. I mean, the thing about this is that, and this may be kind of a topic for a video, and maybe, you know, if you guys want to see this, let me know down in the comments below, but I feel like we're getting to the point where these Memorial Edition items are really cool. They're great. But since we have now every single changer from Zenkaiger, which was only 2 years ago, now having the Memorial Edition treatment, and all three of them has made their deluxe toys basically completely obsolete. I mean, this thing is insane. I mean, this is a great release, and I can't wait to get into the whole video of it. But it makes my deluxe one basically completely pointless, and it, you know, does the same thing for the Deleiner, it does the same thing for the Tokullectibles, so it's kind of getting kind of difficult, and I don't know if it's going to hurt the toy lines later on, to actually recommend buying changers when the show is airing, especially with things like this year's upcoming Kinyoger Caliber thing, which is the changer for this year's show, because it's a sword, so it's kind of a dinky, sort of, you know, smaller toy, because that's how all Toku toy swords are. And because of the fact that we've literally got Memorial Edition swords in the past, I would not be surprised, or I would definitely basically be expecting at this point that in like 2024 we're going to get a Memorial Edition version of that, which would be infinitely better than the one we're going to get released in like a month. So I don't know if this is going to start hurting the toy sales of these guys, but it definitely is making me more hesitant to ever being interested in buying Sentai changers while the show is airing, because you might as well just wait for what seemingly is basically the inevitable Memorial Edition release right after, or soonly after. So, you know, by the time all these Zenkaiger ones are out, the show will have only been over for about 18-ish months or so, so about a year and a half out, which is still pretty close. I think Memorial Edition items work really well for things like the Hurricane Gyro or the Dino Brace, or even the Mobiarts, which is a toy that is well over a decade, some of them nearly 2 decades old, to where it does make sense to upgrade them because of just advancements in toy technology, and of course also just the fact that some of these toys haven't been on the market in decades. But for things like this, they are great releases. They are definitely going to be seemingly the definitive versions of these changers, and it's cool to see them engineer these kind of things for this. But it's starting to get a little bit like, well, you know, why don't I just wait? But that's going to do it basically here for the announcement of the Memorial Edition Geardalinger from TwoKai Sentai Zenkaiger. So let me know down in the comments below, are you going to be picking this up? What do you think of that pretty hefty $255 price tag on Tokullectibles? Are you going to try to find it somewhere else for cheaper? Or are you going to wait for kind of a third party like Mandarake or Bai or something to kind of track it down later for maybe a cheaper price? Did you get the Geardalinger? Did you get the Geardalinger? Are you going to get all three of these things? Like I said, I am going to be picking this up because of the fact I am such a big Twokaiser fan. I definitely do need this in my collection. I mean, it literally has the Mobiarts voice in it, so come on. But I'm definitely going to get this. I'm going to do the $23 a month for a year payment plan, so you guys can look forward to a video on that here on the channel. And like I said, be sure to check out my unboxing of the Memorial Edition Geardalinger from the other day, and there will be a full-on review of it here relatively soon. There's just a lot of things to cover with it, and I want to make sure it's as thorough as possible. So, like I said down in the comments below, I want to hear about everything you guys have to say. And until then, you guguys can follow me on Twitter at LiveRangerKey or LandonFigPR, and I will see you all later. To wrap up this video, I'd like to thank my $5 and above patrons: Jurassic Samurai, Maggot Alchemist, Robert Browning, Static Thunder, Brandon Overland, Maji Yellow, Redstone MCPC, Comics 1017, James Dartley, Monster Rocket, John Luke, Eric Berry, Tyler Brzezinski, Matthew Thorne, Josh Landry, and Pyramidas. You can support Toku Topics for as little as $1 a month on my Patreon, link in the description below.